They invited Halle Berry to open the summit, not to detonate it. The Future of America town hall was supposed to be polished, safe, sponsor-friendly. A glossy New York stage, soft blue lights, industry elites in the front row. The presidential hopeful was running late, so producers asked Halle to warm up the room with a few comments about leadership and representation. They did not expect what came next. She stepped up to the clear podium in a simple black suit, no teleprompter, no notes. The crowd murmured with that low hum you hear before something important, but not historic. Cameras rolled, the live stream ticker climbed past 200,000 viewers, and the moderator relaxed in his chair. Then Halle glanced toward the wings, toward the empty spot where the candidate would walk out, and her expression changed. "I was asked to say something respectful," she began, voice calm, "and I will." A polite chuckle. Easy crowd. But I was not asked to be dishonest. The room tightened. In the control booth, a producer lifted his headset. "What is she doing?" Halle continued, every word slower, heavier. "We are minutes away from hearing from a man who, in my opinion, has been steadily devaluing women with the way he talks about us, negotiates around us, and treats our issues like background noise." The audience gasped, an actual ripple, audible even through broadcast mics. Someone in the front row covered their mouth. A camera operator whispered, "Did she just say that before he came out?" Halle didn't flinch. "And I need to say this clearly, while he can still hear it backstage. I don't believe a leader who normalizes that kind of attitude should be our next president." Backstage, an aide dropped a clipboard. On Twitter, the stream lagged for half a second, just long enough for thousands of users to hit screen record. Within 10 seconds, the quote had already escaped the building. The candidate hadn't even stepped onto the stage yet. And the crisis had already begun. Backstage exploded the moment Halle's words hit the monitors. Staffers who had been casually checking lighting cues suddenly froze. The communications director nearly knocked over a stack of cue cards rushing toward the stage manager. "Cut her off," he hissed. "We can't," the stage manager replied. "It's a live empowerment segment. She controls the mic." Control. That was the problem now. The candidate, still off stage, stood motionless, one hand gripping the velvet curtain. He wasn't angry yet. He was stunned. No one had ever blindsided him like this, not in front of donors, not on a broadcast watched by millions. An aide whispered, "Sir, do you want to wait until she's done?" He didn't answer. His jaw tightened in a slow, visible grind. On stage, Halle kept going, not shouting, not grandstanding, just speaking the kind of cold, measured truth that hits harder than theatrics. When women speak up, we're told to be grateful for the platform. But when a man in power dismisses us, it's called strategy. I'm tired of that double standard. In the control booth, alarms might as well have been going off. Camera 2, zoom tighter. Is his entrance music ready? Do we let him walk out into this? Social media was already detonating. Hashtag Halle said it. Hashtag devaluing women. Hashtag town hall shock. Clips of her quote spread as fast as the live stream could feed them, and influencers who weren't even watching the event jumped in within minutes. What did she just say? Backstage, the candidate finally spoke. She thinks she can ambush me? The comms director swallowed. Sir, she just shifted the tone of the entire event. If you walk out now, you're responding to her framing. He stared at the glowing stage, Halle's silhouette crisp under the lights. She wants a moment, he said quietly. Fine. I'll give her one. He straightened his jacket, took a breath, and stepped toward the curtain. The moment the lights hit him, the town hall didn't feel like a forum anymore. It felt like a battlefield. The second the candidate stepped onto the stage, the air snapped like a pulled wire. The audience didn't applaud at first, they weren't sure if they were supposed to. The tension was too thick, too electric. Even the moderator looked trapped between two storms. Halle didn't turn to acknowledge him. She stayed at the podium, eyes forward, calm as stone. That alone made the cameras shift toward her. "Thank you, Ms. Berry," the moderator said carefully, his voice trembling around the edges. "We appreciate your remarks." It was the safest sentence he could form. It still wasn't safe enough. The candidate approached the podium with a smile so tight it looked carved. "Always an honor to follow such passion," he said, his tone dipped in sugar but cracking underneath. "Though I admit, some of it caught me by surprise." A few forced laughs bubbled up from the donor section. Nobody else risked reacting. Halle finally glanced at him, one slow, steady side-eye that the internet would replay frame by frame for days. She stepped back from the podium, but not far enough to look deferential. She stood right beside it, forcing him to share the spotlight. He hated that. "As I was saying," he continued, "leadership is about unity, not division." Halle cut in softly. "And respecting women is part of unity. Isn't it?" Gasps. Actual gasps. The moderator paled. A producer backstage whispered, "Oh my God," she interrupted a presidential candidate. Cameras swung back to the candidate. His smile twitched. "That's your interpretation," he said. "It's my experience," Halle replied. The audience went silent, so silent it felt like the room was holding its breath. Then someone in the crowd shouted, "Answer her." The candidate stiffened. He wasn't losing the stage, he was losing the room. He leaned toward the mic, voice low enough to vibrate. "I don't take lectures from Hollywood performers pretending to be political experts." A few people gasped. Several groaned. Halle didn't blink. And that's when the live stream chat exploded, hundreds of thousands of comments flooding in. She struck a nerve. Why is he attacking her? He's rattled. For the first time all night, the candidate realized something terrifying. Halle Berry wasn't the one on trial anymore. He was. The candidate's jab hung in the air like smoke, ugly, bitter, impossible to ignore. But Halle didn't flinch. She let the silence work for her, stretching just long enough for every camera to zoom in, every viewer to lean closer, every heartbeat in the room to sync with the tension. Then she stepped forward. "I'm not pretending to be anything," Halle said quietly. "I'm speaking as a woman who's watched powerful men excuse each other's behavior for far too long." The line hit harder than any shout could have. A hum rolled through the crowd, recognition, discomfort, curiosity, all mixing at once. The candidate opened his mouth to respond, but Halle wasn't done. "You want unity?" she continued. "Start by not dismissing the voices of the women you claim you want to represent." The moderator gulped. Backstage, the communications director muttered, "We're losing total control of this." The candidate tried to steady himself. "Look, I appreciate your perspective. But you don't understand the complexities of governing." Halle tilted her head. "Show me which part of respecting women is too complex for you." The audience erupted, not with applause, but with that electric rumble of a crowd realizing they've just witnessed the moment the dynamic flipped. A donor in the front row leaned forward as if trying to physically catch the words. The candidate regrouped, shoulders tensing. "People are tired of identity politics," he snapped. "They want solutions, not guilt trips from celebrities." Halle didn't even blink. "Women aren't an identity box," she said. "We're half the country. And we're tired of leaders forgetting that until election season." Boom. The moderator dropped his cue cards. Now the candidate looked shaken. His polished charisma cracked, replaced by something sharper, defensiveness mixed with panic. He reached for the podium, gripping its edges. "You're twisting my words." No, Halle said, stepping closer, I'm repeating what millions of women hear when you speak. A wave of murmurs swept across the room. Someone whispered, he can't dodge this. Another, she just ended him. The candidate tried one last pivot. You know what? Let's ask the audience. Do you want a Hollywood lecture or real leadership? Halle smiled, soft, devastating. Real leadership listens. Silence. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then the room transformed into a rising wave of applause, uneven, unplanned, undeniable. And the candidate stood there, drowning in a moment he never saw coming. The applause didn't come all at once. It started like a spark, quiet, hesitant, almost embarrassed. But then the spark grew. Row by row, chair by chair, people who had been stiff and silent for the entire event began to clap. Not thunderously, but decisively. The kind of applause that says, we've chosen a side. And it wasn't his. The candidate's face tightened. He tried to smile, but it came out wrong, like a man pretending he wasn't witnessing his own authority crack in real time. He lifted a hand to quiet the crowd, but they weren't looking at him anymore. They were looking at Halle. She didn't bask in it. She didn't pose or smirk. She simply stepped back, folded her hands, and let the moment breathe. That made it hit even harder. Backstage, producers scrambled. Do we cut to commercial? We can't, this is the biggest spike we've had all night. Then get ready, because he's about to lose it. On stage, the candidate leaned toward the mic again, forcing something like composure into his tone. All right, he said, voice trembling beneath a thin layer of calm, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Halle cut in gently. Opinions are easy. Respect takes work. Oof. The room reacted instantly, a collective inhale through clenched teeth. He snapped. You know what this is, he barked. This is political theater. You're here for applause, not answers. Halle didn't move. Her stillness was lethal. If defending women from being minimized is theater to you, she said, that tells the country everything they need to know. Boom. Shocked murmurs swept the room. The candidate stepped closer, pointing at the podium as if scolding her. You're twisting narratives. That's why real leaders don't fear questions, she replied calmly. A woman in the audience stood up. She's right, she called out. Another voice, stop dodging. Another, answer her. The candidate froze. Live. On camera. His control, evaporating. This is ridiculous, he snapped, shaking his head. This isn't how serious politics is done. Halle's voice dropped to a soft, seismic whisper. Maybe that's the problem. And the crowd erupted, louder, clearer, no hesitation this time. Backstage, the campaign manager exhaled one sentence that captured everything. She didn't just challenge him. She exposed him. The crowd's roar hadn't even settled when every camera in the hall locked onto the candidate's face. You could actually see the moment he snapped, the tight jaw, the trembling nostrils, the eyes narrowing like he was searching for someone to blame for a disaster he created himself. He wasn't just losing the debate. He was losing the room, the narrative, and the illusion of control, all at once. Halle, he said, voice cracking despite his attempt to steady it, you're turning this into a circus. She didn't raise an eyebrow. She didn't shift her stance. She simply answered. No. I'm turning on the lights. The room exploded, a mix of gasps, applause, and stunned laughter. Even the moderator shut his eyes for a second, as if silently praying for a commercial break that wasn't coming. Backstage, his comms director whispered, we need to pull him. Right now. But it was too late. The candidate stepped forward, finger raised in that familiar scolding gesture that always played well in friendly interviews, but now, under harsh white stage lights, it looked desperate. "You don't understand the real world," he snapped. "Women like you live in Hollywood bubbles." The crowd booed. Actual boos. Even donors shifted uncomfortably. Halle's reply was soft enough to silence all of them. "I've lived in the real world my entire life. I just refuse to belittle people to feel powerful in it." Camera zoomed in on him. Then on her. Then back on him. He swallowed hard, and the mic picked it up. That's how quiet the room had become. Someone in the audience whispered loudly enough for the microphones. "He's falling apart." The candidate tried one more pivot, one final attempt to salvage his footing. "I came here to talk policy," he said, forcing a laugh, not to be lectured by an actress. Halle didn't hesitate. "Then stop acting threatened." It hit harder than anything she had said yet. People stood. Not all, just enough. Enough to make history. And in that moment, the candidate's expression shattered into something raw. Not anger. Not confidence. Fear. Because now he understood. This clip would go everywhere. Every screen. Every feed. Every headline. And nothing he said next could undo the moment he let the entire country see him break. The moment Halle said, "Then stop acting threatened," something in the air shifted so sharply it felt like gravity itself paused. The candidate blinked, too slow, too stunned, and that tiny hesitation became the frame that would freeze, loop, and dominate every platform within minutes. In the control booth, the technical director whispered, "Oh my God, this is the clip." He was right. Camera 3 zoomed tighter, catching every micro-expression. The twitch of embarrassment, the flare of defensiveness, the sudden awareness that millions were watching him unravel in real time. Meanwhile, Halle stood perfectly still. Not triumphant. Not mocking. Just steady, like a mirror held up to power. The candidate tried to recover with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Well," he muttered, "I guess Hollywood loves drama." Halle didn't miss a beat. Drama happens when leaders avoid accountability. Another eruption. This time sharper, louder, undeniable. Phones rose like a digital forest. People were recording not just the argument, but the very collapse of a political persona. Backstage, the campaign strategist paced like a man watching a slow-motion car crash. "She's naming everything we've tried to bury," he muttered. "Every weakness, every blind spot, she's pulling it into the spotlight." On stage, the candidate's voice cracked under the pressure. "You're twisting my intentions." Halle tilted her head slightly, an expression that would become a meme before the night ended. "I'm repeating your impact." Boom. That line hit like a meteor. The crowd murmured, soft but seismic. A journalist near the front whispered, "That's the quote. That's the one the networks will run." Across the hall, a group of young women stood, clapping deliberately, defiantly. Their applause wasn't loud, it was symbolic. And symbols travel far faster than words. The candidate looked around, searching for faces that agreed with him, but finding fewer by the second. In the upper balcony, someone shouted, "She's saying what we've all been thinking." The audience cheered. The candidate froze. And the live stream count surged past 3 million. Halle didn't speak again. She didn't need to. Because the world had already decided what the moment meant. It wasn't a debate. It was a reckoning. And the clip, just 14 seconds long, was already leaving the building and heading straight for every screen in America. The moment Halle and the candidate stepped off stage, the calm lighting and polished decor couldn't hide the chaos brewing behind the curtains. Staffers swarmed like a shaken beehive, panicked whispers, frantic headset chatter, papers dropping, phones buzzing non-stop. The candidate ripped off his mic pack before the sound tech could even reach him. "Who let her say that?" he barked. The comms director swallowed hard. "She wasn't scripted, sir." "I know she wasn't scripted," he snapped, pacing like a storm on legs. "Why wasn't she stopped?" "No legal grounds to interrupt," someone muttered. "Wrong answer." He spun toward them. "I don't care about legal grounds. I care about optics. She humiliated me, live." Two staffers exchanged worried glances. One whispered, "He knows the clip is everywhere, right?" "Oh, he knows." Across the room, Halle stepped calmly into the green room. She set down her mic, smoothed her jacket, and accepted a glass of water from a trembling intern who whispered, "Thank you, for saying what needed to be said." Halle gave a small, tired smile. Truth doesn't need to be loud to land. Meanwhile, the candidate's meltdown escalated. "She twisted everything," he shouted. "This will tank the polls, the donors, the media, everything." The strategist rubbed his temples. "Sir, with respect. The problem isn't her. The problem is the way you handled her questions." "Wrong move." The candidate's voice dropped to a near growl. "So you're taking her side?" "No. I'm telling you what millions just watched." Silence. Heavy. Radioactive. A staffer rushed in with breaking numbers. "Sir, the clip hit 7 million views in 15 minutes. His jaw flexed. "That's impossible. It's trending in 12 countries. The strategist exhaled. "Sir, this isn't a moment. This is a narrative." Halle stepped out of the green room then, walking past their cluster without looking at him. The candidate stiffened, but she didn't stop, didn't gloat, didn't engage. That, more than anything, infuriated him. He shouted after her. "You think you won something?" Halle paused, turned her head just slightly. "I didn't win," she said softly. "Women did." And that single sentence echoed harder than anything said on stage. By dawn the next morning, the moment wasn't just viral, it was everywhere. Every television network, every podcast, every political panel replayed the clip like it was breaking news, not a 14-second exchange that shredded an entire campaign's image. Cable hosts froze the video, zoomed in, analyzed his micro-expressions like forensic scientists. "He panicked here, see the throat swallow?" She stayed composed while he lost emotional control. This wasn't an argument, this was a meltdown. Meanwhile, overnight hashtags dominated the internet. Hashtag Halle was right. Hashtag stop devaluing women. Hashtag leadership under pressure. Hashtag town hall meltdown. Millions who hadn't even watched the event now demanded to know. Who talks to Halle Berry like that? Why did he get so defensive? Is this how he handles powerful women? In Chicago, a morning radio station opened with, "She didn't just challenge him, she exposed him." In Atlanta, barbershop conversations turned political. In Seattle, coffee shops buzzed with replayed clips. In Dallas, a waiter held up his phone and said, "This is gonna change votes." Even international outlets chimed in. The Guardian, a political giant, crumbles under the softest truth. Le Monde, Halle Berry redefines the tone of American debate. BBC, a career-defining misstep captured Liv. And then came the polls. A push notification hit every phone at 9:12 a.m. Breaking, overnight voter sentiment shifts after town hall clash. His approval with women, down 11 points. His favorability among undecided voters, down 8 points. Halle's support as a public advocate, skyrocketed. Backstage at headquarters, panic spread like wildfire. "We need crisis messaging, now." "Is she doing interviews? Who booked her? She's trending above the sitting president." The candidate stormed into the room, slamming the poll packet onto the table. "This is an overreaction," he growled. "This is a media hit job." But no one responded. Because the numbers didn't lie. Finally, the youngest staffer spoke, quiet but clear. "Sir. America didn't see a media hit job. They saw a man who couldn't handle a woman telling the truth." Silence. Not argumentative. Not defensive. Just truth landing the way Halle delivered it the night before. Soft. Measured. Devastating. Across the country, Americans weren't just replaying the moment. They were rethinking him. By the time the sun set, the town hall confrontation had transformed from a viral clip into a national litmus test, a moment people referenced not for entertainment, but for clarity. Something about the exchange, the imbalance of composure, the way Halle stood still while he unraveled, struck a nerve across every demographic line. That night, a primetime anchor opened her broadcast with the words, "Leadership isn't measured by how loudly you speak, but by how calmly you stand when challenged." Clips played behind her, Halle's steady eyes, his trembling hands, the audience rising in disbelief. The narrative was no longer his to control. It belonged to the millions who witnessed it. At a university campus in Boston, students gathered around a projector replaying the moment. One woman said, "She spoke for all of us who've been talked down to." A man answered, "He showed us who he really is." In Los Angeles, a muralist added Halle's silhouette to a wall of influential women. Her stance, her poise, the exact frame from the broadcast. Underneath, she painted, "Calm is a weapon." Meanwhile, at campaign headquarters, the crisis deepened. Donor calls grew icy. Advisors argued in hallways. Staffers Googled, "How fast can a narrative collapse?" The candidate sat alone in a conference room, watching the moment on loop. Each replay cut deeper. Every twitch, every raised voice, every flash of frustration became undeniable evidence of a leader who couldn't handle pressure without turning cruel. He slammed his laptop shut. "She set me up," he muttered. But even he didn't believe it. Because the truth was simpler, and more dangerous. Halle didn't trap him. She revealed him. Back in her hotel suite, Halle sat quietly with a cup of tea, scrolling through messages. Not just praise, but stories from women thanking her for saying aloud what they'd felt for years. One message stood out. "You didn't raise your voice. And yet you made millions feel heard." Halle exhaled, shaking her head. "I wasn't trying to start a movement," she whispered. But she had. The final breaking news alert of the night read. Nationwide poll, 63% say the candidate's response showed a lack of respect for women. And beneath it, a trending headline echoed across every platform. She stayed calm. He fell apart. America noticed. The story wasn't just viral, it had become a turning point. And nothing in his campaign would ever be the same again.